So what they found when they were digging out the foundations for this bridge was basically a big kind of what they call a horn pot, which is a hole in the ground. And what we know from these animals is, looking at it, is that they were animals that you wouldn't perhaps expect in this part of the world. Wild boar, elk, moose and reindeer, all found in pits around this area. We're earlier than Romans at this moment in time, Wapu. We are about 8,000 years pre-Roman at this stage we're talking about. And what they also found in this area, let me just show you an image of what was just found just in front of us here, was these. So these are sharpened, well, you can see what they are, they're spearheads, they're for hunting, right? And we believe that the village that was located pretty much where we stood would have resembled something along these lines. Absolutely, thank you, Tish. So yeah, click on the image to enlarge it and have a look. And do just flick backwards if you feel you've missed it, click back, have a look. So what we're talking about is a kind of rudimentary fishing village located on the banks of the River Ouse. You can see the little kind of coracle fish at the bottom left-hand corner of the picture. You can see skins being kind of dried out about 2/3 of the way up on the kind of left-hand side. So that's the kind of settlement that would have been here about 10,000 years ago. They found, fish hooks, they found kind of fish bones, but it's the hunting that's kind of important, because what we know is that the way that these communities lived was about half a mile upstream, where the animals couldn't pick up a scent. They would make a clearing in the forest areas, because England at this time was utterly covered in forestry, totally covered. The Ice Age was a wonderful planter. It kind of, the glaciers, if you like, just spread seeds everywhere. And once the ice sort of came back, then consequently, all these trees you see now is but a shadow of what we once would have had down here. But what they knew is that if you try and hunt, hi Len, good to see you. If you try and hunt animals in a forest, it's very difficult. The animals are fast, they'll get away, you probably get hurt, you'll all go home hungry. But if you go half a mile upstream, where the scent can't be picked up from the village, and you make a clearing by the water, the animals will come there as a watering hole. And once the animals have come together, if you like, and collected themselves, then with organisation, with cooperation, it's much, much easier for everybody to eat. So the beginnings, the earliest bits, if you like, of human cooperation are around hunting. And so that's what we're kind of finding here, is lots of evidence with the spears of communal hunting, with the antlers and so forth. So you might wonder, how is it that we came to have reindeer, moose, elk? I know there's a lot of Canadians on tonight, North Americans. They're much kind of more familiar to you than they will be here. And the reason is the last ice age. So if we look at this image here, the Great British-Irish Ice Shelf, that ice shelf, so the white on there, is basically the last ice age. So all these patterns of human settlement were basically influenced by a variety of ice ages, about 3 or 4 major ice ages. The last one finished about 12,000 years ago. And this is the map, if you like, of the ice shelf that was covering this part of the country about 12,000 years ago, or up to 12,000 years ago. And it had been there for about 35,000 years. So what it, of course, had done is it created an ice bridge. So if you go, if you like, to out the right of the picture, obviously you can't see in that picture, you'd be able to see an ice bridge across to Scandinavia and to the Arctic Circle. So basically, I'm just going to pose that one more time, just in case it's already disappeared. If you look towards the bottom of there, you'll see it starts to go green. So not far from York is very much the end of the edge of the ice sheet. So consequently, it's warmer there than it is in the midst of it. So animals are wandering across the ice bridge, coming from Scandinavia, from the Arctic Circle, and coming as far south as they're able to get better and easier access to food. Does that make sense? So that's what brought these animals to this area. And because the animals were here, it would seem that it drew then people, because you certainly couldn't live here during the Ice Age. It was too cold. The whole thing would have been a frozen tundra. And what happens at the end of the Ice Age is, as it starts to melt, we get this massive water rise.